And now for our panelists. She is executive producer. She is the reason why we're here. Her father wrote the novel Shogun. Please welcome Michaela Clavell. She is a producer of Shogun and been so vital and instrumental to making the show. Please welcome Eriko Miyagawa. Next is one of our translators. Please welcome Junko. Known simply as Yabushige. Please welcome Tadanobu Asano. It's hard for me to do this without crying, but she plays Mariko. Please welcome Anna Sawai. And I was trying to think, when we were back there, you may have heard it as Rodriguez is pulling a gun on Blackthorn, but we were singing Happy Birthday. It's Anna's birthday today, so. He is the star producer, now executive producer moving forward. Please welcome Hiroyuki Sanada, who plays Lord Yoshi. She is co-creator, executive producer, and writer. Please welcome Rachel Kondo. And he is co-creator, executive producer, writer, and showrunner. Please welcome Justin Marks. Thank you all for being here.
Excellent. Hello. Oh.
Hello, how about now? Yes, hello. Thank you all for being here. It was so fun to listen to you guys cheer and clap and gasp and ooh and ah over this show. It was really fun to hear you back there. Also, you got to see this on an enormous screen, and that is incredible. All right, look really good, right? I want to start then by asking the two of you a visual question, which is, because we just got to see this, so huge. I was wondering for you, what was the visual moment in this story that you were most daunted by, and how did you pull it off?
That's a great question for Justin.
Justin?
That's a great question that Rachel just asked. I think that we were so intent from the beginning. We knew that 1600 Japan is a very hard world to realize, and one of the things that was most important to us was to render the world in such a way that it felt uniquely ours. And one of the elements that we were always playing with in the show was the mist. This feeling of, Vancouver gives us a lot of mist, so that was good news. But when it didn't give us mist, and even when it did give us mist, we brought mist. And then after that, we added more mist in visual effects. And I think it spoke to the central metaphor of the show, which is this indeterminate world where our characters live, and the way they try to chart paths through that, some with greater clarity than others. I'm pointing at Hiro-san for that.
Well, and here, let me ask you a question. You've described yourself as a shy actor, but you have this different role on set here. You're not just an actor, you're a producer, you're a leader. So what was it like being both a performer and this leader on the set?
I was a shy producer as well. Because it's my very first time in my life, But we had a great crew and cast, so I just really enjoyed it. Of course, as a producer, carrying our culture on my shoulder, it's big pressure. But more than that, I really enjoyed the collaboration on set every day, every single day. It was like a dream.
Anna, do you agree that he was a shy producer?
I think so.
Yeah.
He's mysterious because he doesn't say a lot, but when he does, it's like wisdom. So yes, a little shy.
Was there there a moment of wisdom that you recall?
I feel like every conversation we had, I was throwing wisdom in my face. So, I mean, I can't recall like one specific thing that. I think it's just when I've talked about this in the past, but whenever I was going through a hard time and I felt like I wasn't doing enough because what Mariko carries is so heavy, I remember Hiro-san coming to me and telling me that that's exactly what Mariko is going through, so just like lean into that emotion.
Oh, I love that from the crowd. Very wise.
Happy birthday.
For Tadanobu, I have a similar question. What was it like to have Hiro as both a scene partner and a producer on set?
日本語ですいません。そうですね。真田さんとは思い出すと僕が19歳の時に日本の作品でまず最初にお仕事させてもらったことがありまして、その時も本当に大きなチャンスをいただいたんですね。で今回Shogunでもやっぱ同じように大きなチャンスをいただいて、現場でも本当に僕は本当にわがままばかり言って真田さん含めて皆さんに迷惑ばかりかけて。本当に映画の中でも迷惑かけてるし、現実でもね迷惑をかけるっていうとんでもないことをやってたんですけど、でも本当にそれは僕やっぱ真田さんになんか絶大な信頼を置いてるからなんだなって自分でも気づけたんで、本当に感謝しております。
Yeah, so I apologize. I'm answering this question in Japanese, but thinking back, I first worked with Hiro Sanada when I was 19 years old, and at that time it was a big opportunity. And flash forward to Shogun, this is another great opportunity, and I think I probably caused a lot of challenges and trouble for my cast and crew, and not only in reality in the story, but also on set too. So I'm very, very thankful for all the opportunities that Sanada-san has given me.
Thank you for payback with a great performance.
Eriko, I wanted to ask you, you have so much to do with bridging the cultures that are involved in this show, and I was especially fascinated to know about the translation process. It's like a 4-step process. So I was wondering if you could talk about, at least, if not more, so I was wondering if you could talk about the translation process, and then maybe, was there a concept that was the hardest to translate across cultures? I think you're
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, so first script written by the writers would go to Japanese translators, and then after that the dialogues need to be polished and made into a period style Japanese dialogue. And then it would come back to us, and oftentimes Hiro-san, sometimes myself, would give notes. And then it will eventually go to the actors, and actors would have notes, you know, as American actors would do with their dialogues and whatnot. Yeah, so I feel like we were just polishing, making it better until the moment we rolled. As we rolled, sometimes we would polish and try different things. So we just kept at it.
And then was there a concept that was sort of hard to translate between
yeah,
writer's room?
Yeah, a fair amount, because language is so different, and you know, when the culture is different, sometimes to deliver the same intention, sometimes we say different things because of the culture, and also this is very specific time period. I think one line that pops in my head is maybe the Ochiba's line at the end when, was it end of episode 5? She tells Ishiro that council will answer to me. And culturally, if she says that, it'll just be too much. Like someone, you know, like that would never say that. So in Japanese, what she says is, let's hear what the council have to say. But her delivery and how it's said, it really delivers exactly the same intention. And it is very, very clear to the Japanese-speaking audience that what she means is that. I think that was one of the most sort of controversial, like it was one of the most difficult lines to translate. Yeah.
I love that. Justin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it was for Rachel and I, because Eriko, what you're describing is what got us the footage, right? And then there was this other process on the other side of it where we took the Japanese performance in post and retranslated it back into English, which was this elaborate game of telephone. Very often it was what was written, and that's great. And plenty of times it was not. And that was the Ochiba line is a great example of it. And we would have these conversations. In some cases you say, well, let's change that subtitling. Let's make it more reflective of what was said. And then in other times, I think the conversation we had about that line was, let's put into words what we see in her eyes there, and to feel that spiritual truth so that Japanese audiences could experience it in the same way that American audiences could, because we couldn't interpret those same cues in the way that a Japanese audience would. So you find a way to bridge that gap.
Michaela, I wanted to ask you, I know how devoted you are to preserving your father's legacy. And given how meticulous this whole process was, and I know how involved you were in sort of the conversations about this adaptation, the changes to make, was there a moment where you said, no, this has to stay, we have to keep this, we can't change this one thing?
Well, this is a testimony to Justin and Rachel. There might have been with somebody else, but they were always so game to take any thoughts, right or wrong, and consider them, either throw them out, and we agreed to throw them out, or sometimes to put something in. And I think one of the bigger moments was the importance of the seppuku scenes. That was for Blackthorn a journey we wanted him to take, but they quite rightly had to find the place to put it, because if you've seen one seppuku, you don't need to see 3 or 7 or 10, and there were a few in the way. So I think that was probably the biggest one, was perhaps, I don't know, Justin, is that fair? That where to put Blackthorn's seppuku scene, which was integral to his character's development. Where do you put that? There were a few things, but they always took an idea, we all threw out some stupid ones. We had notes, and everybody throws out the odd, not me of course, but everyone throws out the odd stupid note. They always took the note and they would say, and think of a way, maybe that makes it better, maybe it doesn't, and if it didn't, that was out, but if it did, the ego was never there. In everyone on this stage, look, Hollywood's famous for having egos, right? Everyone on this stage, everyone on that set did their best with great passion, and this was just one other example of how that was done. Everyone here went for excellence, not ego, in every step of the way, and I just, this is just a small example of maybe one way it occurred on the set. Is that fair, Justin, Rachel?
Yeah, I would say that we, the Blackthorn seppuku story, which would have taken place around what would be episode 4 of the show, had we used it in the same placement as the book, was something that we as a writer's room, through that process, really grappled with. We felt that were it to come too early, the audience wouldn't properly understand its meaning. It was also a belief that we didn't believe, given the way the show is paced, that Blackthorn could plausibly understand its meaning and the depth of its significance. And we also felt like it was a good landing point for the character, that is very unexpected if placed towards the end. And but I think in all honesty, there were times when we were looking at it and saying, is it ever going to find its way back into the show? And you kept us honest to hold on to it and to keep chasing it.
But you also trusted us to table it. I mean, I thought that was enormously courageous because it's a huge moment in the book. And you trusted us to say, let's pause. We don't know if it's coming back, but let's explore what would be either way. And I think that that's just kind of a smaller example of what the process was like, was just learning to trust ideas, not labeling them, and seeing what stuck.
Yes, and I really, really appreciate that where it ended up was the absolute right place for it to be, because you placed it at that moment. It was the right moment. It would have been too early. It was perfectly done. So it was one of those things that made it better. The conversations made it better. So yeah, yay.
I love that. There's so much in here that's faithful to the book, but I was curious to talk to you both about an adaptive change that you're proudest of, a deviation that you're like, wow, we did that, and it worked.
I would say that one of the deviations I'm most proud of, and I've talked to other writers and they're also proud of, would be kind of the addition of the friendship between Mariko and Ochiba. In the book, they probably know of each other. These are highborn ladies who walk in the same circles, and
Shuffle.
Yeah. And they would know of each other, but there wasn't much room for exploration for a perhaps childhood friendship that we wanted to explore in the show, and that was extremely fun for Callan Puente and myself to explore, especially for episode 9 and in preparation for episode 9, and to kind of to hinge a lot of the story on what girlhood friendships can mean and the impact that they can have, however quiet they started out.
Yeah, I thought that was also that introduction of their linked past gave us this really fun opportunity in episode 6, in the opening, to, in the spirit of our show, it's a show about agency, it's a show about how people find agency when they are given no opportunity to because of class, gender, identity, all of these things, that we could see the last 20 plus years of history in this world from the point of view of 2 young girls who have the least agency in this world, and to carry them through to adulthood when that relationship climaxes on the story. The whole war hinges on that relationship, on these 2 little girls now grown up. And we thought that was something that felt true to the book, because of course it happens in the book, but it was infused with this other layer because of our obligations to service a little more backstory in some cases, so it helped.
Speaking of walking, not running in circles, this is such a meticulously faithful historical production. I was curious for the actors, what was the most challenging aspect of the mannerisms of this time period for you to embody into your performance? Maybe starting with Hiro.
In the summer period drama, we have to talk with Shakespeare Japanese. So first of all, there's a little hurdle for the young actors. But luckily, I have experience since I was a child actors, many samurai movies, ninja movies. So it was, comfortable for me. But try to show to the Western audience with Shakespeare Japanese. Is it possible to tell them our story or culture, 70% Japanese with subtitles? So for me, I felt that just a little risky kind of gamble, but we believed it can be, and then looks like it happened.
It worked, yeah.
So that was the hardest challenge for me.
Anna, how about you?
I feel like I've talked about the walk so much that people expect me to say that. But one of the hardest things was just standing up. And I know that sounds crazy, but we're sitting on the floor and we can't use our arms like that. So we really have to stand up using our thighs. And it's like standing up from a squat every time, and you have to make it look so elegant, and you have to do it in the tea house where your husband's coming in to have this serious talk, and so that was the most hard thing for me, is just standing up.
You're absolutely right, though. Our editors had to come up with a whole way to cut around women standing up. Because if you look at the dailies, it's like, oh, and here she goes. No, wait, she's back. No, she's coming. Yeah, she's up, everyone. And she's
We tried.
There was also the weight, that was a literal weight on your shoulders of the many layers of your kusode, and this is why at the end of production you ended up looking like Anna's face, but with a football body. I mean, it's a football player body.
Exactly. And you would also sometimes step on your own kimono by mistake, so you're like, oof, going back down again. Anyway, it was really hard.
I don't know.
僕は唯一真田さんから自由にやっていいっていう許しを得ていたので、いわゆる本当に皆さんが気をつけなきゃいけない所作とかっていうのをぶっ壊す人物だったから好きなようにやらせてもらえたんで、ただ本当にそれをどう壊すかっていうのは本当に毎回考えるのが楽しかったですから。
So I was the only cast member that Hiro-san gave me permission to break the mold, that I could be free. I was the only one. And so I had a lot of fun in trying to figure out how to break that mold every single time.
Worked.
Eriko, I was wondering if you could talk about, you and Rachel got to film little cameos in the show, and I was wondering if you could talk about your very important roles and what it was like to be on the other side of the camera on this production.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Wonderful question.
It's a very serious question.
Yes. Rachel and I have a cameo, sort of beginning of episode 8.
$20? Anybody saw it?
Does anybody know?
Episode 8?
Yeah, we played experienced prostitute number 1, experienced prostitute number 2.
You guys have a name.
Yeah.
This is Jennifer.
I'm Jasmine.
Oh,
No, Jennifer
Jasmine.
and Jasmine. We were probably in it for about 1 or 2 seconds. But it was a lot of fun, and also quite humbling to be on the other side. And
It was I mean, we laugh about it a lot, but it was very insightful to understand what you all had to go through, because we had fittings and hair and makeup and backstory, and we really worked on our roles. And it was not easy to get into and our kusode were not quite as layered as the lovely Lady Monaco's, and it was difficult. And then all of a sudden, they ask you to bow, and you don't know how. and then that's a wrap. And then that was it.
I think, well, this is like planting seeds for season 2.
Naturally.
The spin-off.
Surely.
2 experienced prostitutes coming to FX. Michaela, I wanted to ask you to go back to sort of this visuals. You and I were marveling over how enormous the screen is. Was there a visual moment while you were watching the show where you were like, wow, they did it. They got my father's book perfectly?
Well, I think probably every single scene is Dad's book in a way that had never been done before. But there was one scene that for me was, to be honest, really personal, and that was, has everyone seen it? Episode 10? No. I don't want to blow it.
Cover your ears, the few no's I heard.
If you haven't, here's a disclaimer, cover your ears. But there was the beautiful scene with Fujiko and Blackthorn in the boat. And it was Rachel and Justin's imagining of this scene that couldn't have been more Dad, but actually it wasn't. It was their moment, where they sprinkle Mariko's cross in the water, and of course Fujiko's beloved husband and baby child, and that just brought that was the one scene where I did crack. I mean, my father was also sprinkled in that same bay, and Justin and Rachel had known that part of the story very quietly. His ashes were sprinkled there 25 years before Shogun was made. We grew up in that bay. So it was kind of a circle of life story for me going back there, and it was beautiful. I think it was beautiful even if you didn't know your father was in that bay. It was pretty special. So, but that was my personal moment. Specialness.
Part of the joy of just sort of listening to you all watch this show from back there was mostly what I could hear was score. And the music in the show is so incredible. And I was wondering, Justin, I was reading, I think it was an interview with Atticus Ross, and he was talking about working with you, and one thing you said is, I don't want to do what everybody else does. So can you talk about the process of working with Leo and Atticus Ross on the score here?
Yeah, I think it was that, I don't know, that Jerry Maguire thing of we're not going to do what you think we're going to do, and fill this score with all those instruments that you know you've heard from Western versions of Japanese period pieces. We didn't feel that the first point of our thematic interface was really about culture. We were trying to tell a story about the psychology of this world, and so we wanted the score to transcend culture and get to the psychology of these characters. And if that meant that we found our way back to certain Japanese instruments, which we did, then that's great, but it was coming to it from a different point of intention. It was not, coming from a place of, I can't say this anymore because we're owned by this company. Trying to be a theme park.
Sure.
That was just intended to be something. Sorry, everyone. Thank you for all the money to make this possible. But to actually get closer to a real experience of what it might have been like to be in these characters' shoes. And that's, I think, that something that Atticus and Leo and Nick Chuba did so beautifully. I mean, they found there's an instrument, what is it called in Japanese? It's a nose flute is what we would call it. It's a flute played through the nose. And that's actually the theme and the title sequence that you hear. And then there was another one where they just took a string and they buried it in the dirt and they pulled it out of the dirt and used that sound. Just really great stuff. Really, really fun.
I thought it was a hair.
No, it was a string.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe many hairs.
I don't know what sound a hair would make as you pull out.
It's Mariko's long hair.
Yeah.
Oh,
A long
sad
note.
Happy birthday, Anna.
Michaela mentioned Fujiko. Rachel, something that I think is really interesting is when people watch this show made, for a 2024 audience, they suspect that you added a lot more dimensionality to the female characters, or a lot more plot for the female characters. That's on the page, like that's in the book. So I was just wondering if you could talk, I mean, I just wanted an excuse to talk about your friend of mine, Fuji, and how much we love her, and let's just discuss.
I mean, all the Fuji love starts in the book. I mean, everybody in the writer's room, all of us writers, instantaneously knew what a gem she was in the book. I mean, her one-liners are, I mean, they are swift and they are brutal, and they made sense, and they were funny and they were full of heart, and we cared deeply for her in the writer's room, and then to have that embodied by Moeka Hoshi, and to see her performance and that long, 100-yard stare while her teacup raises. I mean, these are crowning achievements for us.
This is art.
Very crowning.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree. Fuji is a legend, but Tornaga is a legend, Mariko is a legend, Yabushige is a legend. I was curious what it was like for you actors to take on these iconic characters. What did you want to make sure that you preserved about these characters as they sort of already existed for people? And what did you want to add? How did you want to push it in a different direction?
Wow, what a hot question.
That's Joanna.
Sorry.
The model of Toranaga, the real Shogun Ieyasu, was a hero of my childhood since, because he created the peaceful era for a long time after, stop the war period. Playing himself is meaningful, introduced to the world, what he'd done, especially for now. So, yeah, a little pressure was there. But, I just really enjoyed the collaboration with other actors and directors. I've done producing every day on set, and sometimes acting with the costume. So it's kind of feel like a reward. Oh, just doing acting in front of the camera? And I was like a, kid. Let me do it. So relaxing and just concentrate to my performance. So I could relax and enjoy to be a character and that's it. Don't do anything wasting things or movement. Just be him, be there, and then have fun. That was my experience in front of the camera this time. So I was nothing to think.
Anna, how about you?
I mean, Mariko is just so beautifully written in James Clavell's novel, and so I don't know if it was like, oh, we need to change this and that, but I think one thing that I had felt was that growing up as an Asian woman, people do look at me and think a certain way of me, excuse me, because of the portrayal that they've seen in a lot of media. And so I didn't want to perpetuate this sexual, sexy, Asian, exotic person. I wanted her to be known for the intelligence that she had and the strength that she had and the vulnerability and all that stuff inside. And so it was a conversation that we had about her maybe not joining Blackthorn in the hot tub. Hot tub?
That's great.
That's great.
Have you been reading fan fiction? Shogun fan fiction?
In the hot spring, and so that they could have that human connection, and it would be even more intimate because it's not about the sexuality, it's just the mental, sexy connection. And so those were some stuff that we talked about, and I'm really happy that we did it the way that we did.
Tadanobu?
そうですね、僕は何しろ本当に台本が素晴らしかったので、そういう意味では台本以外の情報も なるべく入れないようにして、それから今台本を本当にたくさん読んで、自分の役がどういう役割なのかっていうのをまず理解して、その後に他の人の役を通じて、他の人の役をセリフを言ったりして演じることで見えてくるやぶしげ像っていうのをなんか客観的に捉えるようにして、それで作っていって、プラス僕自身本当の自分自身、現代に生きてる自分自身に当てはめてセリフを言ったりとか、現代に置き換えてこのシチュエーションがあったらどうなんだろうっていうのを考えて、組み立てることがほとんどでしょうかね。
Well, in my case, I actually, the script was absolutely awesome, and that was actually the only research material I leaned on. I do a lot of reading and rereading. That's my process, so I understand who Yabushige is, not only from my point of view, but other characters. How do other characters in the scene think about Yabushige? So I would also say other people's dialogue that are in the scene, not just my own. So that's how I kept building, and just to try to continue creating different scenarios and challenging and diversifying what kind of answers I come up as I was developing Yabushige.
I do want to speak to Tadanobu-san's performance in this case, though, because so much of the joy and terror of working together on this was what idea was he going to come with on that day. And because it was always something sideways, it was always something else. There was a scene in the beginning of episode 3, and it was a very simple scene. It was starting the episode with him thinking Toranaga had summoned him, and he thought he was going to die. And so he sits down with his kocho to write his will before he goes to meet him. And Tadanobu came over and he said, I think I do this every day. I think I always think I'm going to die, so every day I start my day with a new will. And then it just gave us this fun of it's a good will, it's our best one yet. And which became a runner through the entirety of the season of not today, and then finally the day came when it was, sorry, spoilers. But it has, I think, it speaks to, maybe that's what you're speaking of when you speak, that Hiro-san would give this permission for you to have more fluidity in the Japanese that you were speaking and the modernity to the performance. What a sideways way into a character who, there were so many wrong doors that anyone could have taken for that kind of character, and you took every right door. It was like a magic bullet. Truly an amazing performance.
I just did everything as it was written in the script.
Oh, a lie right here towards the end.
A lie.
Okay, so the people who haven't seen more, this is another warning to maybe cover your ears. I just wanted to ask the actors, this is hopefully a simple question, which is sort of, and maybe vaguely, so maybe not to spoil the people who haven't seen it. Can you talk a little bit about where we leave your character at the end of this? I know, it's hard. Your final moment, or okay. I just feel really bad for the people who are like, no, I haven't seen past episode 1. I don't want to spoil you. How about this? What is the moment that you feel most embodies your character? What is the moment of your performance or in the story that you're like, this is it. This is Toranaga. This is Mariko. This is Yabushige.
And it cannot be the final moment, whatever.
Yes, not. Or speak vaguely about it.
Whatever it may be.
I feel like it is one of
Yes.
episode 9 scenes. Here, I'm gonna say this, I'm not gonna spoil it. I will say in episode 9 there's a scene where Mariko calls herself Toda Mariko. And no, I'm sorry.
Catchy.
Akechi Mariko. Sorry, I've been saying Toda Mariko this whole time. So many times. Akechi Mariko. And this is the first time that she ever says, claims herself with this name. And I think that is the moment where we really see her reclaim her identity. And so I think that represents her.
You know?
Yeah, it's so hard to choose one, but because always he was Trona, so. But I love the episode 10. I cannot tell everything, but me and Tadanobu, and then before I did something to him. He looked back to me and smiled, and I smiled back just before something. I think that's yeah, very Tronagi scene, I think.
If I may though, before we, I now have to call out favorites where, because this is the one for all of the crew, in episode 8, Toranaga and a good friend of his, who will remain nameless, maybe have a goodbye. And there is a scene, there's a look on your face that is, it's not 3 layers of a secret heart, it's like going down 9 layers and finding a truth that beneath everything else, I mean, it was astounding. And that was another one-take wonder moment of Hiroyuki Sanada where you nailed it on the first take, and that's the one we used, and it was a masterclass, just a masterclass.
Wow. Tadanobu, the most Yamushige moment.
まあ本当に彼は本当に子供のような人物だと僕は思ってて、ずっとその子供が、興味のあることに正直ね向き合っちゃうようなタイプで、まあ、このアリを潰したらどうなるんだろうとか、これを燃やしたらどうなるんだろうってことを常にもう本当に日々楽しみにして生きてて、でまあその一番楽しみなことをまあ最後に自分で味わうというのがまあ象徴的だったかなと思いますけど。
Yeah, so I've always seen Yamushige as a kid. He's just a curious kid running around, and what would happen if I squish this ant? Or what would happen if I squash that? So I would think that his last moment is the most Yamushige moment.
When you squash that ant.
Yeah, that he was curious, yeah. That his curiosity is exemplified in his last moment.
From the show.
From the show.
End of this.
My last question is for the non-actors. Justin, you already called one out, but if any of you had a moment for any of these 3 actors here and their characters where you're like, I'm gonna be thinking about that forever, and it's not episode 9 for Anna. Any other moment?
For me?
No, for the non-actors. Maybe for you, Rachel.
I would say something that was educational for me was watching Anna's performance as she's simply trying to leave through a door, a big gate, but you know, she's trying to walk through and leave Osaka Castle. And this 50 feet, it's very tricky. And the way that you performed this 3-day long, was it 3 days? It was 4. It was incredibly difficult, and the stamina that it took is off the charts. But you made the choice at the very end when she has her naginata and she's fighting back these samurai on her own, and you are coming to the end of yourself physically. And you have moments in which you're exerting, your voice is I don't even know what we would call it. I think we tried to groans or grunts, or it was just something that sounded inelegant almost, but very raw to what you were experiencing and everything that you had thrown at this one moment, which was your entire life as a character. And I just remember thinking, oh, would that change in post, right? Is that something we're going to kind of wash over because we want to have it seem delicate and keep that femininity about you? And that was a choice of yours to keep it raw and to make it inelegant and to make it real. And I remember thinking that was something that was so bold and courageous because it was the truest choice for your character. And that is what I shall take with me.
I love that.
I have to be honest with you.
Oh no. Oh no.
I don't know if that's a choice I made.
I'm just tired.
It just happened. I feel like I was thinking the same thing, like Mariko would not sound like this. But it was just happening because I was fighting. And that was the truth. But
in my world, that was a choice.
We'll keep it that way.
No. Either way, either way.
The other thing to know about shooting that scene was it was 4 days of shooting a really intense fight sequence, and in between every take there were like 4 cameras shooting at the same time for that, 19 fly swatters over the area where we were blocking out all the sun to make it consistent over 4 days. And in between every take, Anna was just standing there. She never went back to her tent. She just stood there on set, frozen, as everyone was moving around and getting the background back up to where they needed to be. And we're sitting in the village like, go talk to Anna. Like, something's wrong. Like, go talk to her. And it's like, so I went over. It's like, everything okay? And you were just this calm amidst the storm of production. At that point, I'm fine. It's like, do you need anything? Anything? No, I'm fine. And it was just this stoic perfection that you really achieved in that scene. It was unlike anything that we could have ever dreamed for Eriko. That stone in the river that you represented.
I learned from the best.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Anna. Thanks, Sam. Thank you, everyone. That's all the time we have. Thank you to you all.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks so much.